Morning, everybody. Thanks for bearing with us. We're having some technical difficulties with Zoom and updates and SSO and 123 and all the other fun things. You guys know how it's like.
It just requires us to update, but we don't own Zoom anymore through everybody. So
Oh, yeah, that could be it.
it won't let me update, but my desktop lets me update. So I'm just not on my actual computer, my work computer.
Yeah. Make it work. We will make it work. All right. Well, since DJ CJ is still on vacation, we've got a stand-in helping us out. So the great Justin Roberts is joining us today just to help, whatever, just hang out, just be there for moral support. Otherwise, you know what we do here. We are here to talk about everything Bluebeam. And today we're going to talk about some things outside of the Windows environment. We're going to be talking about Bluebeam for iPad, revisiting this again. We're going to be talking about some of the Bluebeam Cloud apps and the web browser. And then Liz, I see you're here. I'm going to reference heavily onto this wonderful spreadsheet chart graph thing that she made, explaining some of the differences. So Liz, if you want to help us out, we can certainly promote you and put you on the spot here. But there's some interesting things happening with these workflows and these different apps that are going on. Basically, Bluebeam, the whole construction industry, Autodesk, all of them are trying to make construction processes more detached from your desktop, right? Not needing to be tethered to an office, not needing to be tethered to your laptop. What else can we do out in the field to communicate, to collaborate, to collect data, and everything in between? And we've done a couple episodes on the iPad. It's been a while. I don't use it very often. Then again, I don't leave the house very often, so it doesn't really apply to me all that much. But for some of you, I know have had tremendous success with the iPad version and knowing some of the tricks with that. And I also know that some of you have kind of struggled with it. It is a $10 app. It hasn't been updated in a very long time, but Bluebeam hasn't killed it. Right, it is still very much a viable thing that you can go download from the App Store for $10. I think last time I checked, it was like a 1.8 star app, and that's not too great, right? But let me pepper in a little thought about that. If you've never used Revu before and you open up that app, yeah, it's gonna be tough. Not only is the interface old and dated, it has that 17 and prior interface to it. So the buttons are in weird places. The icons are different. It's not intuitive compared to the Revu desktop product. And it doesn't have the full capability. But what do you expect? $10 versus $400. You know, you're never going to get the same experience. Doesn't matter what product it is. So that said, if you know how to treat it just right, if you know some of the tricks that we're going to show you today, it actually works pretty good. But if you're coming in blind to the iPad, you're going to have a rough time. And that's what we're here to help you with. Additionally, we're going to talk about the new Android app that was released and actually updated last week or the week before. There was an update to the Android app. And with that, another disclaimer, Michael and I are not Android users. We don't have Android devices. I looked in the house for an old tablet and I got nowhere. So this is where we're, again, relying on Liz's chart. And if anybody has an Android device who's had some experience with them, we'd love to have you contribute to this episode as well. That said,
and I'm just getting my iPad ready with Zoom. It's a little bit different of a workflow through what we have with Teams now. I've kind of haven't thought about this process. I think since the last time we did this, we were using Zoom, so it was easier to share screens from iPads to this more of the podcast series. But let me download Zoom. We'll get things ready. For now, let's at least check out the comparison for the cloud portion. So the cloud portion of Revu was launched back in September of last year, which allowed us to kind of migrate to our applications a little bit more efficiently. It was really built for the construction industry in the aspect of managing issue tracking, RFIs, and submittals. So today we'll take a look at just the differences. Liz created an excellent sheet on our LinkedIn page. It's called the Morning Coffee Review LinkedIn page. And if you go and check it out, I'm pretty sure Jason's bringing it up right now.
I am.
Zoom is finally re-downloaded onto my iPad app. And then I will join from the iPad as well, just so we can look at the workflow of how we can use the iPad out in the field from the traditional $10 application. Those are really the only options you kind of have for mobile devices. If you do use cloud, be aware that there are limitations out in the field. You can be disconnected from the internet. It's just a little bit different of a workflow than what you see from the web-based application of cloud. Because the web-based application of cloud allows you to do everything, whereas the app doesn't. I know it's kind of backwards thinking, but that's okay. We'll let you know everything, kind of the ins and outs. Were you able to find that, Arlie?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. So I'm sharing my screen here. I've got our LinkedIn Morning Coffee Review page. So if you haven't joined us, come over there, because this is where we're going to talk about stuff in between our Tuesday episodes. But there's the incomparable Liz Larson. Is that a good enough title for you? Until my brain can think of something more majestic, that's what you're getting. But Liz made this chart about the online experience, and it's about the Bluebeam Cloud functionality, right? So there are some other things in here when it comes to, actually, there's an updated one. Sorry, let me go to that one. Always check the comments. There we go. And it even displays a little bigger. So full credit to Liz for this one. You know, and I'll get my chat going, because I'm sure she's adding more contrast to this. So yeah, there's a lot going on with these different apps, and it's going to be very difficult to not only mimic the Revu 21 experience in the cloud version, but also you know, learn more about, you know, how we're going to collaborate, because we're not all on Apple devices, we're not all on desktops, we're not all on laptops. How can we do the same things? And immediately my eye looks at this chart, and there's not a single line where green goes all across, right? So we're going to have to balance, you know, what device can do what with what role can do what. And that role-based part of this workflow is that part I'm seeing take over, right? Because we see the same thing in Autodesk Construction Cloud, same thing in Procore and some of the other collaboration software. Depending on your role determines what you get to do. There's life for you, in case you didn't get that part figured out already. But there we go.
It's making me confirm my birth year.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. You know, Zoom.
It's making me create an account. This is unfortunate. I can't do that here.
Yeah. Zoom is not our friend. So there's that.
Okay. So unfortunately, I will not be able to bring up my iPad to join this meeting. That's unfortunate. Just because Zoom is making me sign in to third party, and it won't let me sign in from the free version. Apparently you have to pay now. I can't just join from my iPad with a code.
That's interesting. I still have Zoom, but I was wanting me to register for this thing.
Yeah,
I can do that if you want to start talking, because I can't do both at the same time.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Zoom is a little bit more chaotic. If we do want, or anyone listening in wants a meeting about using the iPad or seeing how it works, we can always schedule a Teams call after this. We can be more than happy to utilize that versus the Zoom feature, which is better for presentation, but ironically enough, we're finding it not better to sharing from multiple devices, which it used to be if you have the full Zoom account. But as we go through, let's talk about what we have available for the application of cloud. So when you go through and look at, I'll just start, I guess I can share my screen, but I won't be able to share the app because I'm not on my work computer. So 1 second, let me go to
Cloud.
Oh boy.
Oh, so there you go. I'm stuck in the recapture loop. So we're just having difficulties today. So again, we're not live streaming on YouTube. So this is a good day to have technical difficulties, but bear with us, y'all. We'll get that.
Let me sign in real quick.
So
I haven't had this many technical issues for a while. I'm assuming Zoom updated their app and the update is requiring people to log in now and not just jump into meetings. So 1 second.
Could be. So I want to, Liz put in the chat, mobile apps are never a perfect one-to-one recreation of PC software, but there should be some consistency between mobile apps. I would like to dive into this a little bit more. I 100% agree. That's where the interface between Revu for iPad and Revu 21 is frustrating to me. It seems like it wouldn't be that hard to update the UI with icons, at least colors, and call it good. But they haven't done that for some reason. But we hear a lot from clients and customers and people curious, especially because in the Autodesk side of things, there's a lot of things going on, right? There's a lot of different software and apps, and people are always trying to be frugal where appropriate, and they get frustrated. Like, well, if I can buy this for $10 and it can do 60% of the things the $400 version can do, why wouldn't I just use that? Well, because that 40% is what makes that software worth the extra money, right? And we hear a lot of complaints, doesn't matter if it's Bluebeam or Autodesk or Esri or anything else. There's always a lighter version that people want more of, but that's why their light version exists. So I get it. I get the frustration, but it is what it is.
Let me try logging into my email. Did you try that way on the iPad?
I did, but
let me see.
Just having troubles.
Because I have the account link
for
the event that I already signed up for.
Do you have a screen mirroring app for iPad on your PC?
Oh, that'd be so clever. I can, if I use Bluetooth. Hold on, let me see.
Oh, come on, David.
Is it going to bump me out if I join from my iPad?
I don't know. I'm trying to register and I'm stuck in this reCAPTCHA thing because I missed one little corner of a stupid bus.
It shouldn't bump you out.
Okay. The voice of Justin Roberts, everybody. This is a special treat. So
sorry
to make up for us,
no audio
issues today.
There we go. There's my iPad. Perfect. So me joining from my email address on there worked just fine. So what we can go through and do is I can at least stop my share here and we can view the app from here. Okay, so the traditional workflow of what we're able to usually go through and do from the iPad is that we can use the old application that we were just talking about, and that was that $10 cost fee. Now, traditionally, some of the workflows for those folks that are deciding to use the iPad would be to go through and use the paid for app. I usually traditionally show the free app. So as we go through and look at Bluebeam VU, that is the free application for the iPad. The reason why I show this is because, and still now, until they at some point deactivate it, you don't necessarily need to pay for the application and through Apple, because it's going to Apple, right? I don't know what type of royalties Bluebeam actually gets for this. But basically what you're able to go through and do is still access studio sessions and the full markup capabilities that you may need to do offline or online. So that's traditionally why I show this workflow. Prior to cloud being released, you can go through, small cut. Prior to the cloud app being released, this was kind of the workflow that I would go through and show. So basically what you would be able to do is you download this free app. On your desktop application, you would start a studio session and then upload your documents there and then go out into the field, right? Because you don't necessarily need to go out and use the full application. Now, there are folks that I know that like to use the full application on the field, but again, it is a little bit clunkier. I do work with a couple of firms that are starting to transition out of this workflow because the application does crash. So again, to each their own on how they want to use this application. I just want to give everyone the information that I've dealt with clients and how they've implemented this. But if you do decide to go through and use this, because we used it when we were out in New Orleans last year for our one team and still walked the facility in the conference room and were able to go through and utilize all of that. Now, this is on a more updated application, or I guess hardware. The iPad, we did the comparison between the Surface Pro and the iPad and what are the stronger suits. I would probably, in my opinion at this point, which I used to be, and we changed Jason to a iPad user, I would probably pivot and deviate back to Surface Pro. I know, sorry, but basically because it's Windows. And now you have single sign-on to your application versus the $10 app that's clunky, not full based. The only downside, again, we did the comparison between the iPad and the Surface Pro, the cost difference. You get more bang for your buck out of the iPad than you do the Surface Pro. But again, Surface Pro isn't operating off of Windows. It's operating off of iOS. So the downside is you get the clunky app. So it comes down to what decision you want to make. However, you do get the app that is cloud to use as well. Now, there are limitations to what you can do, but for all that being said, let's just show you the application that is here through the iPad. So from here, what I'm able to go through and do is traditionally, I would say you would sign into a studio session. So that is the studio icon at the top. So I'm going to continue to sign in.
There's some interesting questions going on here. So Bluebeam Cloud comes with Revu 21. Is that correct?
Yes.
They're still on Revu 20. So can I log in and use Cloud? I don't think you can. You're welcome to try app.bluebeam.com, but I don't think your Bluebeam ID is going to let you into the cloud because it's not linked.
Unless you've, okay, so I guess the caveat would be you've accepted the new transition. You're not using 21 yet, but you've accepted the new transition, right? And you've signed into the portal and activated your license. That would be the only caveat.
Yeah. And so talking about the Surface version, the Surface version is the same thing that you're using on your computer, right? Because it's Windows based. That said, there are two versions of the Surface. One uses a Intel processor and one doesn't. If you don't have the Intel processor, you might have issues.
Yeah, it just needs to have Windows as the operating system. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's no difference at all other than, touchscreen, but
everyone likes a touchscreen.
Yeah. Yeah. You want the dial. I don't know the dial. Is there a dial on Surfaces now?
Okay, so we're going back. And sorry for everyone watching the video, and you get to see my beautiful forehead as I look down at my iPad. So is it broadcast? Oh, it is. Okay.
It's trying.
So let me go back to the app. I already signed in. So basically, you have to sign in to Studio. I'm signed in now. Under this icon, you'll see where right under the plug button, that means you're connected to the internet or you're not connected to the internet. Below that is your projects. Sessions. The next one to the right is the actual icon, which is your projects, which I think these icons are a little bit more noticeable than the desktop icons, but again, to each their own. So these are all of my projects that I have access to. Now, the only downside to this is how does it work in the field, right? So the downside being you have to click on the PDF to cache the metadata prior to going out into the field. So what I'm saying is that you have to click the PDF. Once you've clicked the PDF, it'll cache a copy local on the iPad. Then you can be disconnected from the internet to go through. And good old Zoom just knocked me out. So 1 second. Reboot the device. No.
Oh boy.
Just reshare. That's all I wanted to do.
Computers.
I should probably just do the screen share. And whoever said screencasts, that's smart. I should have just done that. But going back.
David.
Yeah, thanks, David. Going back into here. So now that I have it downloaded local, all I did was click it to open it, right? So as I go back into the session, here's all the PDFs that I could have clicked through. Again, top left icon with the plug button means you're connected or disconnected from the internet. So let's show you. Hey, I don't have wireless connection, but I'm out in the field still going through and getting ready to make my markups. Now, the best workflow and recommended workflow to getting your tool sets over into the iPad application would be to have a session that has an ongoing, maybe tool set updates. That way you can drag and drop them into the session from your desktop application, because then you can access them from your iPad. So basically, that being said, as you can see over here, here's a tool set that I've added. All I have to do is double click it and it'll say overwrite because it's already existing. But it would say added tool set if it wasn't existing. On the top left-hand panel, you have a down arrow triangle. If I click that, that's going to bring open some panel options. It's basically your panel association. You have your tool chest, which looks actually like a tool chest now versus the old toolbox. You have the thumbnails, so how many pages are there? You have your bookmarks, if there are any bookmarks. You can go through and search for content, and you can take a measurement if you wanted to. Well, that's not taking a measurement. That's your measurement panel. I'm sorry. Taking the measurement would be below that if you wanted to grab any of that, those type of measurements. But over here on the left-hand side, I can go through and look at my RS practice here, which were just some practice symbols that we were running through. But as you click the icon, you can go through and place it. Same thing though, you get to go through and take photos just like you were before. Let me move that face over here. And I can go through and, take a photo of something live, which if we all remember from my pre-conference of me being ready and inside, getting ready to create an aquarium with shrimp. If you remember the pre-video, I'll take a picture of what I have now.
Oh boy.
Right. So we could be live out in the fields, attaching photos to our iPad or the PDF set. And now I have my symbol with the actual image of what was taken at that point in time. And you can add more images if you wanted to, right? So if you wanted to see more of my plants, I can go and add another photo. And there we are as we're looking at multiple pictures of something. Again, directly from the iPad application. Now you still have the full access to go through and make any revision clouds or any markups that you want. This is just a traditional way of using Revu from the iPad app. And typically, again, we offer training on that. Bluebeam has a bunch of videos. I don't know if they have any on Bluebeam University because I know they've been pushing a lot of that lately. But this would have been the workflow prior to Cloud, right? So with the introduction of Cloud, you can now say, I don't want to use that application and I want to use Bluebeam Cloud. Now, Bluebeam Cloud allows you to access PDFs offline or online. Oh, man. Let me sign in.
Oh, boy. Yeah. So let's see. Get caught up on the chat. Yes, live demos are tough. We're having, hopefully, the last.
It's more of like a share thing.
Knock
today,
on wood.
I feel like.
Yeah. More technical difficulties than usual, but that's all right. That's all right. We'll blame DJ CJ for having a wonderful vacation and not inviting us. There's that. Let's see. Lenovo makes decent laptops that convert to a tablet. Correct. I had a Lenovo basically go up on flames, so I will never buy another one. So, okay, Lenovo, you listening? You can send me a new one. Yeah, there's different tiers. And same thing with everything, right? That's kind of what we're talking about here. You want the premium? There you go, your review complete. Or you go all the way down and you get in between. So going back to Revu Cloud now.
Yeah, so here's the Cloud application. So again, you sign in, which I had signed out. Ironically enough, I'm pretty sure Dustin Key's listening in here, and this was going to him. So I pretty much deactivated everything and tried reinstalling everything last night. But as we go through and look at this, you're able to go through and look at your projects. So anything that you've been invited to in Cloud. So this is basically, if anyone was here before Cloud, this is Project Rover and docs as well. What was it called? Drawings. rolled into one app. So basically what you're able to go through and do is I can click on the application of the project. This is a different user interface now than what you would get from the app.bluebeam.com, which is the web-based app. And guess what? You can't log in. Well, I haven't tried Google, but Safari, if you're trying to log in, it boots you into the app. So it says, don't use me in Safari. I'm on iPad. I don't know what it would do now for Google since the Android app has come out. But again, you can try to see if you can log in, because there's things that you can't do on the app that you can do on the web-based browser, like lightly marking up, which some folks would have wanted to do, right? So then that would mean you'd want to go back to the back to the application versus going into here. But that's what we're here to do, is to show you what things you can and cannot do and let you make an informed decision. So as I clicked open this drawing, right, I can go through and zoom in. I can look at the PDF, but there's no markup pane. So traditionally on the app.bluebeam.com web-based browser, left-hand side, I'd have a markup pane that I can go through and mark up my documents. Now in here, I cannot go through and do that. So as we're looking at our drawings in here, I can go through and actually see my drawings, but on the right-hand side, all I have options to do is punch items. So I could go through and place any punches, which none have been assigned to me. And I can't go through and create my punch from here. RFIs, same thing. I guess you can drag that window. That's cool. But I mean, that does nothing for me. So going back into here, let me hit exit. Move me over again. I'll just move me bottom right. So when I click on the top right here, I have my dashboard. So that's bringing me back into here. I have my drawings. I have my map view, which I get to go through and see my 3D plan. If you remember, we've all worked on this one before. I showed you where it was, and we were rotating things. So that's cool. I can see my map view. This would be the same instance if I'm going to go through and use my location while using app. That's fine. Oh, it's going to bring me to where I'm at. Oh, well, should probably turn that off. No one needs to know where I live. 1 second. I think that happened to you before.
Yeah, glad Justin's here to start get the edit list. This one might not even make YouTube. Let's just call it good.
Well, that's funny that it actually takes me to my location, because that would be, I was trying to show you the geolocation spot. So definitely I'm not in the location of where this is on site. So I apologize for that.
But that's what that is for, right? Since the devices that we're using, the iPhones and Androids and iPads all have some sort of GPS capability now. If you're working through the job site and you're actually walking through doing a punch list, it's going to grab what corner of the building you're in. It's going to grab what part of the site. So if you're close enough, that geolocation aspect becomes far more powerful, right? And in this case, maybe a little too powerful.
It's all right. Everyone can come over. We'll hang out.
Yeah.
So here's the punch log. So we can go through and look at is our punch log. And this is, again, any punch lists that have been created. You can then go through and see any email association to them or any comments. So you're more than welcome to go through and comment via the iPad. So that's great. You can go through and address things that maybe have been assigned to you. This one was obviously not assigned to me, but I can go through and change things. What's a priority on this? The next one would be your RFI log. So you can go through and look at your RFI log. As I go through and look at this, the one thing though is when you're attaching the RFI logs, if the RFI isn't attached to the actual PDF, like for instance, submittals, you're attaching the PDF to the submittal versus the adverse, the submittal to the PDF. It does reduce the DPI, so just be aware of that. But this does click it right open to where the RFI is. So if you were trying to go through and address RFIs, where is that location? What is that being addressed to? You can go through and see the history of this and what the discussion is if you wanted to have a discussion for it. Next one would be your submittal logs. There aren't any in here, but again, what this does is when you're creating a submittal in Cloud, you're attaching the PDF or documents to the submittal. Downside to that is it does rasterize whatever it is, and it doesn't create a better, resolution of that document. I uploaded a couple PDFs is what I'm trying to say, and I couldn't really see much with it. So So this is the app, right? So this would be your options that you have. You could pay for iPad at least, because the desktop now is the Windows-based application like Surface Pro. I think, in my opinion, would be a better workflow only because you can single sign on to your traditional desktop application. But that being said, on Surface Pro, would you even be able to use Cloud? Because you would have to log into the web-based app. Is that right?
Yes,
Jason?
I
Okay.
would reckon so.
Because if I'm using Surface Pro, you don't download the Android app there?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Let's see questions.
I think we're caught up on questions. I think everybody's
everyone's
too
just small
focused
chatting.
watching us fumble.
We're not fumbling. It's just,
Hmm.
it's just a little bit of a growing pain with Teams and Zooms. I think you and I have completely adopted Teams for doing demos in comparison to what we have on our mobile device, like my iPad. But now if we go into Cloud via here, ooh, see, there's a pause button. I don't know why we don't have that on the app.
Yeah. So on the there's a question from David. Is there a Bluebeam app from the Windows Store? And honestly, I forget that there even is a Windows Store.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I don't know. Except all the cookies. Wish I actually got cookies. So if we go back into here and let me show you my projects, right? The capabilities that we lost here are, if I click into the PDFs, right, which were the drawings, quote unquote, I have my markup pane. Now that was the thing that was I was questioning. Well, why would you create an app that wouldn't allow me to do the full thing? And I don't know if they're going to introduce it at some point and whatnot, but you can't go through and use this pane, right? And it may be a connection issue of how they're trying to, push and pull the data, but I don't know what the answer is on that one. You can't go through and use things like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't go through and grab my markup in my tool sets here to, quickly place something on the PDF. And then I don't get the same pane to address the information here, which would be my shape comments. So like maybe there's a status on this polygon and I've accepted that the status has changed. That's one of the great things I think of Cloud, that if it was built into the application, it would make it more efficient transition, I think, to using the iPads versus a Surface Pro back to the desktop application, right? Would we all agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. So there's a couple of questions and a clarification. Someone was able to log into Bluebeam Cloud with just Revu 20 using their Bluebeam ID. So interesting.
But it would be the free one, right? Sorry.
Yeah, the free one.
My fault.
There is a couple people noticing that, hey, this kind of looks like Autodesk Construction Cloud. Okay. These companies sort of hate each other, right? They are competitors at the core. But
I would say it would mimic Field. So what I don't know what I think they still call it Field. BIM 360 Field is kind of, to me, because I've done training on BIM 360 Field out in the field, and it mimics that workflow. So I would agree in that sense. I would say these two this isn't obviously beta stage anymore. It's released, but I would still say at its infancy of creating, because I know this will become a solution that the pain points of us talking through of some of these issues are being worked out because they listen to pain points, right? So Bluebeam is building into this. I just am giving you all the pain points that you may encounter from listening to folks and also using it before you jump into it head over heels, right? I do think that this will be one of their more refined apps as we go along. But it is similar to your workflow for those folks that were using or know how to use BIM 360 Field.
Correct.
Or Field now.
Yeah, I'm getting caught up on questions. What you're seeing, the app, what you're seeing with Cloud, none of this is replacing Studio projects or sessions.
No.
Studio is far too powerful, too valuable, too relied upon for them to really mess with. Now, for those users on Revu 19 and below, that's a whole other story. But overall, Bluebeam Studio is not being replaced. It's getting supplemented and enhanced, honestly, with these cloud functions.
Yeah. The other thing is too, and I think this is a gripe for most folks, this isn't connected to projects. So you can, or sessions, you can pull PDFs from projects into here, but they're separate storage buckets. So just being aware that, you know, when you're thinking of Bluebeam Cloud, just think of it completely separate from the desktop application is how you should think of it. They're two separate apps comparative to each other for two separate, I wouldn't say two separate tasks, because you could have done some of the construction aspects on the iPad application, which was stronger than the Surface Pro application because you had to sign out, unregister your license, but now you can single sign on. So almost, if I were out in the field, because typically if you're out in the field, you're going to want to make markups. So then the thing comes back to, well, I'm going to still, you know, use a pen and paper to mark up. So why am I even using Cloud then? So then at that point, then we should just be using sessions on our Surface Pro or iPad to mark up and still place punches and take pictures, right? Because we can do that all from there. What this is allowing us to do, though, is store punch list, R5s, submittals in one location. So maybe use it for that aspect versus, you know, trying to mark up. If you're trying to mark up out in the field, I would still use the Studio Sessions workflow that was prior to the release of this. But if you're trying to get quick access on your mobile devices, because we didn't really talk about that, you know, if I'm trying to get someone out from, you know, a subcontractor out in the field, quick access to a PDF, right? That actually shows high res, I would use the app, right? Bluebeam Cloud is on my iPhone. So I can easily just access it from my iPhone here and then go through and view the PDFs. If they're updated and maintained, that's a great source of truth. So everything that we just showed on the iPad does show up on your iPhone and your Android. Now that's huge because most folks have iPad and iPhone and Androids. I will say there's one of our colleagues who has an outdated phone, which we just learned from one team because we all had to download some applications. And if you weren't able to, but neither here nor there, you can go through and just click everything and access it from your phone. That's great, right? But if we're talking about more of the marking up association, I would use the Surface Pro and iPad.
Correct. And I think that I think that's worth noting, right? And I think that's where they're going. Everybody has a device, and most people have an up to date device, or at least something that's compatible with these apps. So even if they just get the real time part, I think that's a huge step going to where they want to go. You know, conspiracy theory, no, you know, make no stock trades based on that. But I think that's where they want to go. And I think having that small step is huge into getting us more connected on our job site so people can collaborate better. But as you see, things are still getting worked out. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Again, it's in its early stage, but the great feature that I liked about drawings, and it was like 3 different apps you'd have to use before it was all pulled into one, is that access to your PDFs on your mobile device. That was more efficient to me of a process of being able to go out into the field. I don't have to worry about having my paper set. The downside being those I can't mark up issues, right? But I can address punch items if I wanted to know where it was placed while I'm out in the field. If it was placed prior, and then I'm going to check where these R5s or punch items are, I can bring it up on my iPhone and still see the same thing that I saw from my iPad. So again, to each their own. Just being aware that all of these applications are out there for your Android, your iPad, your iPhone. Now, Surface Pro is different because I would just say it's your desktop application, but yeah.
Right. And let's make another distinction here. Some of these programs are meant to be in a different part of the construction lifecycle, right? So if the plans aren't approved, you shouldn't be making red lines anyway out in the field. You know, that's a different design collaboration. But if you're actually out in the field because they're approved, it's under construction, you're doing punch lists, fine, right? So that's where the RFI, or not the punch list part, but that's where the RFI and some of those other construction related aspects come in, because you don't need the markups. You shouldn't need the markups, right?
So here are all of the integrations so far. Someone was asking about Nuforma, Procore. There's Ignite. They haven't opened the API yet. And at some point when we had Peter Knowles on, he said they're going to be allowing it. So right now, meaning enabling it, right? Because in order to get the API for studio sessions and projects, you have to pay. For this, they're releasing it for cloud. Again, two separate things. You have Bluebeam Studio Sessions and Studio Projects. So Studio, that you have to pay access to the API. Here, you do not. They will be releasing it. And he didn't give a date. He just said later this year. So.
Yep. All right, question. I was sent a 330 seconds plan, was asked to make it 1/8 plan. What's the best way to do this?
You can rescale it back and you can you can scale the page up or down via thumbnails, right clicking, page setup, and you can change the scale of what the page is.
Yeah, but you can't blow it up. That's a whole other issue.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can scale it up or down. If the page needs to be plotted at a different size, you can change the style of the page. I just can't show you on here because I don't have Revu on my computer.
Yeah. Can you do a sheet overlay? I don't think you can do a sheet overlay within Cloud. Can you, or a comparison? I haven't tried actually, but I don't think so. In a pinch, if you didn't load PDFs to the cloud prior, does anyone know if there is a workflow to download PDFs to your phone in the field, like from Construction Cloud or Procore, and then open them up into a version of Bluebeam to do markups?
So if you were, I guess, what are you using out in the field, Joshua, would be the question, because if you're using your iPad and you have the desktop app, you just download it from whatever traditional thing you have internet connection wise and download it, open it up on the desktop application without being in sessions.
Yeah.
If you had the paid for $10 app.
Or if you've got an Autodesk Construction Cloud, just keep it in there and do your markups on that.
Yeah.
Obviously not the same, but it can do that. Procore doesn't have markups, right?
Yeah, see, an ACC can. So as we're learning, or as, like Liz was saying earlier, right, it is kind of still in its beta phase, but it's released. We're all kind of in that beta testing, and this is where, Bluebeam does listen. That's what I love about them, request features.
Yeah.
So if you are going through and want to submit these, they do listen, which is great.
Yep. And we still have on deck, we would love to do a head-to-head. Bluebeam Cloud and Revu versus Autodesk Construction Cloud.
I think we have the right person for that.
We've got the right people for that, but I think it's not quite a apples to apples thing quite yet.
Yeah, and what we like to do here at ATG is just inform. So we informed you on some of the challenges with Zoom, and the challenges with sharing, from your application. But you have a couple different things and options. You have the iPad app, which is $10 or free to use studio sessions and projects. You have the actual Bluebeam Cloud application. Now, these are two separate, just think of them as separate entities, separate applications. Bluebeam, because everyone confuses Cloud with studio sessions and projects. They're separate. Those are built into the desktop application. This is the mobile application, you would say, because it's web-based, browser-based. So you have that option. The other one would be using your Surface Pro that actually uses the desktop application, which is Bluebeam Revu 21.
Correct. So there are options. There are things that work well. There are things that work better than others. But if you're stuck with what you're stuck with, there's a way to make it work. And if you've got, a scenario where like, hey, I've got this and this, how do I make that work? Reach out to us. We can have a more, targeted discussion on the best way to get around it. But obviously everybody wants you to spend money. So just buy all the things. You need a better computer and all the licenses. Just buy it.
And like Isaac said here, he's using it, the iPad almost fully functional. So it's just a bit funky. The only thing I've had is, sometimes it crashes. So be aware of that. If you're working on a lot of work, you should probably save it more often. Next one is.
Ooh, okay. One thing I didn't know, JavaScript works on iPad. So thanks, Isaac. And then from Josh, sometimes we have different requirements from different teams, like mandated that we do markups in Bluebeam versus Autodesk Construction Cloud, working with different firms. Absolutely. Sometimes it's not up to us. If you're not the lead dog, if you're a sub to somebody else, then sometimes you might be forced to do markups in ACC or Bluebeam.
Yeah. So for your answer for the workflow of Cloud, it is. So whoever this is assigned to gets to decide to comment, open or close. Same thing for RFIs as you're going through and having them. You can see the statuses of where these are at, if they're closed or they're open. You can create an official response. You can forward it to whoever needs to have it. You can even download it. There is a excellent white paper that I wrote on Bluebeam Cloud. Jason, I don't know if you're gonna be able to pull that up, but it's on my LinkedIn page. It's also on our white papers page at acgusa.com. So if you go to my LinkedIn page, there's a ton of white papers on Bluebeam, as well as structural for those structural folks out there. You can click there and download a copy of that.
Correct. And I was actually in the middle of trying to log into my Bluebeam Cloud and assign you an RFI so you can see that happen in real time.
Oh, okay.
I think we can use our imagination for that, right?
Yeah. And I think it's because I'm in boot camp. You're probably in one of the other ones.
Yeah, I don't have boot camp. So,
which, by the way, we're having another Bluebeam boot camp. So if you do want to learn more about cloud in depth, feel free to sign up for that. You can go to our website, just type in ATG USA Bluebeam. I'll bring you to our drop page. You can do MCR. Look at our boot camps. We have a Bluebeam boot camp coming up at the end of the month. Yeah. So, well, it's in 2 weeks. It's the 22nd through the 26th.
There you go. All right. What other questions do you have out there, folks? I know I saw something early on that they were expecting our sketch to scale, which we did. Our drawing with Revu, and that's what we kind of covered last week, but we didn't really get into the sketch to scale stuff, just because time constraints and rabbit holes, as we often do.
I'm looking at all the old comments. They're like IT's fault.
Yeah, when in doubt, blame IT. And then for next week, let me pull up the teaser here. Next week will be sort of interesting as well, because we're going to dive into Revu plugins. So again, going outside of Revu itself, we're going to be looking at, what can you do in Outlook and Word and AutoCAD, and what are those other plugins that get installed through the Bluebeam administrator. So we'll be, again, a little off topic, but kind of not.
Well, hopefully I'll be able to present from my work computer.
Yeah,
we'll figure out the Zoom updates. Apparently you have to have an account to even update Zoom, but if you have Zoom downloaded, you have to join from the web browser, but it won't let you join from the web browser because it pushes you back to the app. So that was our pain this morning.
That was your pain. I didn't have the issue, so there's things going on.
Did yours update automatically then?
I don't know. I think it's just Zoom's probably just saying, hey, insert a coin here.
Well, it made me update my this is my home computer. It made me update this one, and it was allowing me to update. The other one was requiring me to sign in. Anyways, it said contact. Yes, it did, David. I know you didn't comment right now, but it said contact your IP, IT to update. Anyways, come back full circle. So this is cloud. What you're able to go through and use, and the two differences between the applications of field. Now, full disclosure, Jason and I are not going out to the field every single day and using these applications out in the field, right? So full disclosure. However, we have talked to teams using them. We've heard most of their pain points. So we are just divulging all the information from all of our conversations that we've had to you all, so you can vet it out yourselves. But be aware, there are a couple of different workflows that you can go through and implement. What I just showed earlier of cloud on the iPad, because I did show both. The beginning was specific to the desktop application, which is their paid for $10 app on the iPad. And the other one was the cloud app. That same workflow and what you can and cannot do on your iPad is the same thing that you can and cannot do on your iPhone. Android is a little bit different. Jason, as we started earlier today, had the sheet up that Liz created, which is an amazing Excel sheet that tells you what you can and cannot do on each of those devices in comparison. So feel free to join the MCR LinkedIn page for that. She may have posted it in U2, U chapter 2. So just be aware that it is out there. Liz took the time. We should all give her a little, clap so that we all have access to it as well.
Absolutely. Yep, and it's on U chapter 2 as well. So there's some
Perfect.
resources out there, and maybe in the next round of morning coffee review topics, we'll reach out to the team at Bluebeam and see if we can get some answers directly from them. See if we can get Peter on or someone else from the cloud team to at least give us the roadmap, right? Because we did just switch fiscal years. People are looking at spending money. They're trying to figure out, what hardware, what software, what do they need to, be planning ahead. I got big projects. I got, collaboration goals. I've got things that I need to what's the right tool for the job.
And I will say it's free. So this comes with your Revu 21 subscription. So Revu 21, Bluebeam as a company became a SaaS-based company. So they did transition to subscription-based licenses for Revu. With that being said, this application of cloud comes with it. So as we're seeing, there are some infancy overlaps with this for what we are, being provided. So just be aware.
Liz wants to know why people are clapping. They're all clapping for you, Liz. So you can clap for yourself if you'd like to.
Clap. We made it through this little hard point of live, issues, which is, something Jason and I are always familiar with. You just gotta push through that. For those folks that are ever doing any live teaching and you have, issues with demos, just be aware, everyone's been through it. So don't get flustered. Otherwise it makes things not work out.
Yep.
Otherwise I would have just not joined today.
Just calling a mulligan. And I do see a lot of new names on the participants list. So thanks for joining us and thanks for sticking with us. Normally we're a little better equipped, but today we're just having some issues. I think we'll maybe blame a little bit of Las Vegas hangover or tech issues or whatever it is. But next week and moving forward, there's a lot of you can vouch for us not being quite so sloppy, but we're never perfect.
Yeah. And be aware, we always open it for any questions. So feel free, if you are new to the MCR, to join and ask any questions non-related to the topic. This is a time for you all to get your answers to any questions that you've been lingering with throughout the week. Next week, you can join again, since now since we didn't really kick it off with how we run it, because we were more flustered on trying to get things to work. This is always open for any questions at any point not related to the topic. At the end, there will be a survey. That'll be for you to say how things went. You can say how upset you were that it took so long to get the topic started because of the issues with Zoom. By all means, that's fine. We take any criticism. We just need an answer as to why we're not performing well.
Yep. That said, we got about 5 minutes left. So if you got any questions about anything related to anything, well, Bluebeam related, we can do our thing. Since Michael's on his home computer, if you do have a review related question, I can certainly share my screen and we can work through some review stuff real quick. But otherwise, utilize the community. This is why we do this, is to build this community, to create that sort of open area where you can ask the questions. So if you're asking questions live with us on MCR, or asking us questions on our LinkedIn group, or even going over to UChapter 2 and utilizing the forums over there, we're just a whole bunch of different people from all different places around the world trying to use the same software. No sense in struggling. Let's build each other up and do what we can to make sure that you're not so as frustration prone as we are today. So
yeah, agreed.
There's that. So question, join late, missed Excel spreadsheet. Yeah, in
I'll let
review,
you share it.
Yeah, let me put me on the spot to go find it again.
It's on our MCR LinkedIn page as well as UChapter 2. So if you're on those two different platforms, UChapter 2 is Troy Degroot's area of expertise. He was on here. We always share the community's involvement, right? Because that's what we're all about, building community. But yeah, so if you go to our LinkedIn group
comments, where'd it go?
You
had a different one here.
I don't know, just more click chats.
Okay, that's wild.
Okay, so here we are. So this is the one that you can go through that Liz created on what those ones can do.
Even LinkedIn is giving me issues now. What in the world? I give up. I'm going back to bed.
Okay.
There was comments earlier and in this post. I'm going to blame you for editing this. Yeah, Liz posted in the comments an updated spreadsheet that had more of the chart that walks through everything. But as you can see, as I click on it, I got no comments anymore.
There's the
Weird.
post. She just posted it. So the next one is I take my iPad review on when I go to play D&D, and all my files are in the project and I have access to them. It's great. So that's great. So Brian plays D&D, which is great to know. And also he stores all his files on studio projects. So you can have access to them via your iPad. And I showed that when I was looking at my, so you must have paid for the $10 app, I would assume, Brian, because you have to, I guess unless you're not marking up, you can still access them. Oh, but he paid for the app. Okay. So yeah, you can just be aware you can store them in there and have access to PDFs wherever you want. You just need internet connection to first initiate the selection of it because it caches it local.
Yep. So that's pretty clever. I'll have to think about that. My son's big into D&D. All right. Here's the chart again. And then there was also a question about the Bluebeam Bootcamp that Michael referenced. So coming up the 22nd through the 26th, you can join Michael for the Bluebeam Bootcamp training. So a couple hours a day, different topic every day. You don't have to do them all. You would be recommended to do them all, but some good stuff there. Sounds like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then there's a comment from Isaac. Maybe you should all start a user group D&D for Bluebeam maps. That way you can have tool sets. That's what he asked.
Oh boy.
You could drop that in our group and talk about it. See if anyone loves D&D and wants to, create tool sets. I know a couple people here at ATG that love playing D&D. Maybe I can get them into some Bluebeam and using it for that. Next one is Bluebeam Studio Sessions. Studio Sessions was created by a member whom left the company and their account is deactivated. Can the admin's rights be transferred to someone's session? The only way to do that is if you have Studio Prime to transfer, but you would have had to already log them in. The other one would be you have to reach out to Bluebeam directly and they'll transfer it. So if we are your reseller, we'd be more than happy to reach out on your behalf and have it transitioned over. But basically you need to know the username and who it was, the ID of the studio session. And then we can ask Bluebeam. Traditionally, I think you have to have permission from the original owner. But I think there's a workaround for that you ask them because again, it has to be the owner that says, I'm going to give it away versus just being able to email them whenever and say, we want this control this one.
It's not easy. And if this is a common thing, then we highly recommend Studio Prime, even though it's kind of expensive. But yeah, as Jared put in the chat, you have to have IT reactivate their email, forward it to someone else so they can reset the password, and it becomes a pain. And then lastly, in closing, there's a sad question. When is the Bluebeam conference? They can't find any information. There is no Bluebeam conference this year, as far as we know. I doubt they're going to pull it off in a month or two. So let's all be sad. And there's that. But let's not be sad, because we're going to all get together again next Tuesday and we're going to have a much better time of all this. DJ CJ will be back, and we'll be back toward live streaming, back to our normal stuff. So we will see you then.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for bearing with us. As always, we appreciate all of you. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for all of you continuously joining and having fun with us as we show you what Bluebeam is all about and what building community is all about. Thanks, everyone.